Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be picking up right where we finished off with our 2012 draft class rankings. I did quarterbacks a couple of weeks ago. If you guys haven't already checked that video out, please check it out right now. I'll put it up here in the corner. That video took me a while. I actually went in, did highlights, and made a whole video out of it. So make sure to check that video out. I ranked the entire quarterback draft class from 2012, and there are a lot of interesting quarterbacks in there. I never realized how stacked that class was. Not even in skill, but just crazy stories. But today we're going to be doing running backs. There were 20 running backs selected in the 2012 NFL draft, and today we're going to be ranking all of them. There are a lot of guys, honestly, who I've never heard of. No disrespect. Not a very deep running back class, or maybe it is. I don't know. As I do more of these draft class ranking videos, maybe I'll just notice that in running back draft classes, there's only like 2 or 3 good ones. But I mean, you have like the 2017 class with McCaffrey and Kamara and all those guys. I think that was 2017. But anyways, we'll hop into this video and kick things off with some guys who haven't played a single regular season snap. So coming in at number 20, we have Terrence Ganaway. He was drafted in the 6th round, 202nd overall by the Jets out of Baylor. Like I said, never played an actual down in the NFL. He was active for 3 games, never made it onto the field. In a redraft, he would obviously go undrafted, and that makes him a bust, being drafted in the 6th round. Coming in at number 19, we have Michael Smith from Utah State. He was drafted in the 7th round, 212th overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He did not make it on the field as a running back, but he actually did return 3 punts throughout his career. That's about all he did. But he never really played a snap as a running back, so that would make him go undrafted, make him a bust as well. Coming in at number 18, we have Cyrus Gray, who's going to be our first running back who actually did take snaps at the position in his career. He was drafted in the 6th round, 182nd overall by the Chiefs out of Texas A&M. He played 35 games over his career, 99 rushing yards on 4.1 yards per carry, 1 rushing touchdown, and he had 9 catches for 64 yards and 0 touchdowns in 3 seasons that he was active. No awards, and didn't really play too much as an NFL running back. Didn't really add too much to the Chiefs in the mid 2010s. So I think he would go undrafted in a redraft and become a bust as well. Coming in at number 17, we have Chris Rainey out of Florida. He was drafted in the 5th round, 159th overall by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe he played his 2 seasons with the Steelers. And in 18 games, he had 102 rushing yards on 3.9 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns with 14 catches for 60 yards and 0 touchdowns across those 2 seasons. In a redraft, he would go undrafted, however, making him also a bust. Coming in at number 16, we have Isaiah Pead, who I think I kind of do remember a little bit. He was drafted in the 2nd round, 50th overall by the St. Louis Rams out of Cincinnati. And in 30 games across his career, he put up 100 rushing yards on 3.7 yards per carry, 0 rushing touchdowns with 15 catches for 100 yards and no touchdowns. He did that across 4 seasons as a backup and 3rd string, whatever he was. However, didn't really do too much in the NFL. I would say he'd go undrafted, making him a bust, being drafted in the 2nd round to only put up 100 career rushing yards. Definitely makes him a bust. Didn't really work out too well with the St. Louis Rams. Coming in at number 15, we have LaMichael James from Oregon. He was drafted also in the 2nd round. So 2 2nd-round running backs back to back. 2nd round, 61st overall by the San Francisco 49ers. In 18 games, he put up 193 rushing yards on 4.4 yards per carry, 0 rushing touchdowns with 5 catches for 45 yards and 0 touchdowns. He was in the NFL for 4 seasons as a backup. In a redraft, however, he would go undrafted, making him a bust as well. He did play in the Super Bowl, as you can see in the bottom right picture. He did get a handoff in the Super Bowl from Colin Kaepernick. I mean, that's kind of cool, but it didn't really pan out too much in the NFL. And I hope you guys know that when I'm talking about these players, I'm not meaning any disrespect. I'm just grading this draft class how I see it. That's all. Coming in at number 14, We have Edwin Baker, who was drafted in the 7th round, 250th overall by the San Diego Chargers at the time, out of Michigan State. Across 6 games in his career, didn't really play too much, but he was, decently efficient when he did play. He had 173 rushing yards, 3.9 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns with 8 catches, 57 yards, and 0 touchdowns across 2 seasons. I believe that was with the Browns as well. However, in a redraft, he would go undrafted and be a bust. Only lasted 2 seasons. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I don't mean any disrespect on these players when I am talking about them and calling them a bust and whatnot. All of these guys are superior athletes to you and I, unless you are one of these players watching right now. So I just want to put that out there. Coming in at number 13, we have Bernard Pierce, who was drafted in the 3rd round, 84th overall by the Baltimore Ravens. He came out of Temple. In 52 games, he put up about 1,300 rushing yards on 3.7 yards per carry, 5 rushing touchdowns with 32 catches, 171 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns across 4 seasons. He is a Super Bowl champion. I believe he won Super Bowl, that would be Super Bowl 47 with the Ravens. However, in a redraft, I think he would go in the 7th round. He was, just a decent backup for the 4 seasons that he was there. I mean, I think that's worth a 7th round pick to have a, somewhat reliable backup, but it still makes him a bust being drafted in the 3rd round. Coming in at number 12, we have our first rounder of this video with David Wilson, who was drafted at the very end of the 1st round by the New York Giants out of Virginia Tech. And in 21 games, he put up 504 rushing yards on 4.4 yards per carry. Actually, a pretty high yards per carry there. 5 rushing touchdowns with 6 catches for 42 receiving yards and 1 touchdown across just 2 seasons in the NFL. He was awarded 2nd team All-Pro, NFL kickoff return yards leader in his rookie year, and PFWA All-Rookie team. When I was making this video, I was going through and doing their awards, and I saw 2nd team All-Pro, and I was really confused. But it was because he was a returner for the majority of his time in New York. So a lot of his value came from just returning kickoffs. But he only lasted 2 seasons in the NFL. In a redraft, he would go in the 7th round, making him a bust, being drafted in the 1st round. I don't really know too much about David Wilson, to be honest. Say I don't know ball, I don't really care. But if something happened in his personal life that caused him to only play 2 seasons, let me know, because I really don't know. But as of now, obviously he's a bust. With him being redrafted in the 7th round. But coming in at number 11, we have Darrell Richardson. He was drafted in the 7th round, 252nd overall by the Rams, out of Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian is such a funny college because I'm pretty sure like when you're creating a player on Madden, that's the first college that pops up because it's alphabetical order. So that's what I always associate that college with. But this player was actually out of Abilene Christian, and across 27 games in his career, he had 697 rushing yards, 4.1 yards per carry, and no rushing touchdowns with 38 catches, 284 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns across 3 seasons as a backup, 3rd string. In a redraft, I think he'd go in the 7th round. He provided some decent efforts in the rushing game across his 3 seasons in the NFL, making him actually our first success of the video because he was drafted in the 7th round. I mean, I would say he met expectations of where he was drafted. Coming in at number 10, we have Dan Herron, who was drafted in the 6th round, 191st overall by the Cincinnati Bengals out of Ohio State. And in 35 games, he had 468 rushing yards on 4.2 yards per carry, 1 rushing touchdown with 31 catches, 277 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns across 4 seasons. In a redraft, I think he can go in the 7th round as a decent backup or 3rd string coming off the bench. And I think it makes him a decent pick. He was drafted in the 6th round, so he was pretty much right there. Coming in at number 9, we have Vic Ballard, who also had a really weird career. Let me know if something happened in his personal life. I actually do remember Vic Ballard. I just don't remember if he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. But he was drafted in the 5th round, 170th overall by the Colts out of Mississippi State. And in 17 games, he had 877 rushing yards on 3.9 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns with 18 catches, 147 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown across just 2 seasons. So like his rookie year, He had like I think he had like 860 of those rushing yards, and then his second season he only had like 16. He was, oh my gosh, Andrew Luck's running back his rookie year. They were both rookies with T.Y. Hilton. But yeah, I'm not really too sure what happened. He just kind of fell off in his second year and left the NFL. And a redraft though, I think he go in the 7th round just for his rookie year. He was able to do a lot for the Colts, but he just didn't last too long. And his diagnosis, I think, is a decent pick. Coming out of the 5th round, to be honest, I'm gonna call that a decent pick. It's close enough. But coming in at number 8, we have Bryce Brown, who was drafted in the 7th round, 229th overall by the Eagles out of Kansas State. And in 42 games, he had 1,000 rushing yards on 4.3 yards per carry with 7 rushing touchdowns, as well as 37 catches for 316 receiving yards and 0 touchdowns across 4 seasons. In a redraft, I think he'd easily go in the 7th round. He's a reliable backup, reliable third string that can come off and, provide a good play for you. And so I think that makes him a success because he was drafted in the 7th round, almost to like towards the end of the draft. So yeah, I think he worked out for his NFL career. Coming in at number 7, we have Mr. Trent Richardson from the Cleveland Browns. He was drafted in the 1st round, 3rd overall, right after Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III out of Alabama. And I feel like Trent Richardson, correct me if I'm wrong, because this was when I was like first getting into football. I don't really know too well. But I feel like Trent Richardson was like the Derrick Henry prospect before Derrick Henry. He was pretty hyped up. The Browns thought he was going to be the cornerstone of their franchise. It did not work out like that. In 46 games, he had 2,000 rushing yards on 3.3 yards per carry. Very inefficient. You could blame it on the offensive line. He did go to the Colts, though. In his second season, he got traded to the Colts, which was super shocking because he was the 3rd overall pick and he traded in his second season. And even on the Colts, he did not pan out. With 17 rushing touchdowns, he had 113 catches with 912 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. He was actually pretty decent in the receiving game across his 3 seasons in the NFL. And in a redraft, he'd go in the 7th round. He was very inefficient as a runner in the NFL. He could give you receiving upside, but he only lasted so long. And I think he's a backup or a 3rd string, to be honest with you, with the way that he played in the NFL. Once again, no disrespect to Trent Richardson, but I would say he was a bust being drafted 3rd overall. Really, really unfortunate. I think he just got the curse of the Browns, and that just ruined his career from the get-go. I really don't know. But yeah, we'll move on to number 6 with Robert Turbin, the buffest man I have ever seen in my life. He was drafted in the 4th round, 106th overall by the Seahawks. Once again, Mr. Buffy McGee out of Utah State as a running back. He had across 82 games, he had about 1,400 rushing yards on 3.8 yards per carry, 9 rushing touchdowns, as well as 86 catches for 688 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns across 8 seasons as a reliable 3rd string running back or backup sometimes. He was a Super Bowl champion. That would be Super Bowl 48 with the Seahawks. And in a redraft, I think he can go in the 6th round. When I do these redraft picks with running backs, it's hard. I don't really think taking I've never thought, and once again, no disrespect to running backs, but I never really thought it was wise to take running backs high in the draft because I think you could find some good running backs later in the draft, as you're going to see towards the end of this video. I think you can find good running backs towards the end of the draft. It really just depends on how good your offensive line is. And I think you can make those late round gems, stars. So I've never really thought taking a running back early in the draft would be smart. This is me if I was a GM. I think a good, reliable backup running back is valuable, especially one that lasts 8 seasons or 10 seasons or whatever, anything past 5 seasons. But I think like towards the end of the draft, so like 7th round, 6th round. So I think he's worth a 6th round pick again in this draft, knowing how his career went out. But I do think he's a bust still going in the 4th round. I think there was a little bit higher expectations, maybe be a starter for a little bit or, last longer. But, hey, I have that problem too, brother. Let's move on to number 5 and rest in peace to Ronnie Hillman, who comes in at number 5, one of the saddest honestly, really sad story with Ronnie Hillman here. Passed away at the age of 31 to a rare kidney disease or kidney cancer. Rest in peace. Very, very sad. He was drafted in the third round, 67th overall by the Broncos out of San Diego State. And in his career, he had across 56 games, he had about 2,000 rushing yards on 4 yards per carry, 12 rushing touchdowns with 74 catches, 524 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown across 5 seasons. He is a Super Bowl champion. That would be Super Bowl 50 when he was on the Broncos. And in a redraft, I think he'd go in the 6th round. And very reliable backup for the Broncos. Very reliable third string for the Broncos. Able to do whatever he was asked of. And rest in peace to Ronnie Hillman for sure. Coming in at number 4, we have Brandon Bolden, who's going to be our first and only undrafted player. He was signed by the New England Patriots after going undrafted out of Ole Miss. And across 164 games in his career, he had 1,400 rushing yards on 4.6 yards per carry, which is actually the most efficient out of all these running backs, with 13 rushing touchdowns, as well as 109 catches for 959 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns across 11 seasons, which, spoiler alert, he actually was the longest lasting running back from this draft class, and he went undrafted too. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champion. As you can see, he spent most of his career with the Patriots. That's going to happen when you're on the Patriots when you're drafted. When you go on the Patriots in 2012, you're going to be, have a couple Super Bowl rings. So he had 2 with the Patriots as a pretty reliable third string running back. I think he'd go in the 6th round in a redraft. He was very efficient, 4.6 yards per carry. Very efficient, did what he was asked, and very, very good steal for the Patriots going undrafted, obviously with his diagnosis there being a steal. So, guys, listen, we have gone through about 17 players now who have all spent their careers as backups. We are about to jump up to a whole new tier here with these top 3. Kicking things off at number 3 with Alfred Morris, who was an absolute steal. He was drafted in the 6th round, 173rd overall by the Washington Redskins. Yep, I said it. Out of Florida Atlantic. That was the best picture I could get of Alfred Morris at Florida Atlantic. Across his career, across 114 games, he had about 6,000 rushing yards on 4.3 yards per carry, 35 rushing touchdowns with 68 catches, 513 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground. Never really a receiving back, but he was a really good power back across 9 seasons. He was a second-team All-Pro. Pretty sure that was his rookie year. His rookie year, guys, Alfred Morris' rookie year was absolutely bananas. I honestly don't know how he wasn't first-team All-Pro. I'd have to see who got first-team All-Pro that season. But Alfred Morris put up 1,600 rushing yards in his rookie year. It was absolutely ridiculous, being drafted out of the 6th round, too. The Redskins honestly had a really good draft. If Robert Griffin panned out, this would have been one of the best drafts for them. Anyways, he was a 2-time Pro Bowler as well, and he was a part of the PFWA All-Rookie team. In a redraft, I think he'd go in the 3rd round, making him a steal. His first 3 seasons in the NFL were absolutely electric, and then it just kind of fell off after that. But still, I mean, those first 3 seasons were super, super good. So I think Alfred Morris easily goes in the 3rd round in a redraft, knowing those 3 seasons that he would give you at the beginning of his career. Coming in at number 2, we have Lamar Miller, who was drafted in the 4th round, 97th overall by the Dolphins out of Miami. And across 106 games, he had about 6,000 rushing yards on 4.3 yards per carry, 32 rushing touchdowns with 211 catches for 1,600 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns across 8 seasons in the NFL. I could have sworn he was in the NFL longer, but I don't know. I know he was with the Dolphins, Texans, I think the Patriots towards the end there. He was a Pro Bowler in his career, and in a redraft, he was very consistent in his career. Whereas you have Alfred Morris at number 3, who was just absolutely bananas the first 3 seasons of his career, and then just kind of trailed off. And at number 1, you're going to see it was a little inconsistent with his career. But Lamar Miller never had like a 1,400, 1,300 crazy all-pro season, but he was always consistent. He had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons and stayed consistent throughout his career. So I think he'd go in the second round easily, knowing the consistency that you would get from him, making him a steal, being drafted in the 4th round by the Dolphins. And then coming in at number 1, this is going to bring back some memories for some of you. We have Mr. Doug Martin, the bowling ball, who was drafted in the 1st round, 31st overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Boise State. This man was like the first Ashton Janshi. I hope I'm saying his name right. I have some draft videos coming out, and I'm hoping that I get some of these guys' names right. But in 84 games, he had about 5,000 rushing yards on 4.1 yards per carry, 30 rushing touchdowns with 148 catches, 1,200 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns across 7 seasons. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2015, 2-time Pro Bowler, and he was also a part of the PFWA All-Rookie team. And in a redraft, I think he'd easily go in the 2nd round, making him a success because he was drafted pretty much like right into the 2nd round. But yeah, Doug Martin, only 1st-round running back to pan out in this draft, and he was very, very good in his career. Had a very good rookie year, not as good as Alfred Morris, but still, those two, if you remember, those two rookie years were absolutely insane. And then kind of played decent across the next 2 seasons, and then in his 4th season, he came out of nowhere in 2015 and got first-team All-Pro with like 1,500, 1,600 rushing yards. Just went absolutely insane. And I don't know, when Doug Martin was at the top of his game, he was better than any running back in this draft class. He was very good for the Buccaneers. So I have him here number 1. Originally, I had Lamar Miller number 1, but I think that Doug Martin's height, like getting first-team All-Pro, that is such a huge accomplishment for a player in his career. That just tells you how good he was at his peak. I think I have to put Doug Martin number 1. But guys, let me know if you agree. Let me know who should be number 1 on this list. Do you guys have any random memories for some of these players? There was a lot of guys that I kind of remembered their name, and a lot of guys I've honestly never heard of. But it was really fun to do this. I will be making a wide receiver video of the same type. We're going to do the same exact video that we just did, but wide receivers. So make sure to check that out when it comes out. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys like the video, you made it this far, please leave a like. If you guys really like the channel, you guys like this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.